Hey, this is Kurdt Vanderhoof from Metal Church, and you're watching CMS TV.
It is Chris Aiken Presents. I, of course, am Chris Aiken. And today on the show, one of my all-time favorite guys from one of my all-time favorite bands. This makes it super easy. The band is Metal Church. They have a brand new release called Dead to Rights. It's out on April 10th. They have a brand new lineup that we will for sure be talking about with this. But here to talk about it is the one guy that is not the new guy in the band, of course. He's Kurdt Vanderhoof. Kurdt, how are you, sir?
I'm doing awesome. Doing great.
Well, it's great to talk to you, man. And it's great to talk to you about Dead to Rights. I got to admit, I did not know what to expect. Honestly, when I'm I'll just tell you the backstory. I'm pretty good friends with David Ellefson.
All right.
And so I knew a little bit ahead of everybody else that the band was coming, and I sort of knew the players, but I had no idea how this was going to sound because it's so, Ellefson has a sound, and Ken Mary has a sound, and you have a sound, and Brian is kind of a chameleon. So yeah. I didn't know where you were going to take it, and where you took it is kind of exactly where I would hope is a Metal Church sound. It sounds like Metal Church, man, and I guess awesome. That's the best I can say to you, no?
Well, that's kind of why, when Brian came into the picture, it sounded like David Wayne, and it was like, so that kind of steered the direction when I wrote the songs. It was like, because in my head, I'm hearing him sing it. It's like, well, we can really go in the old school classic way, and I think, again, it wasn't too conscious, but there was no like, oh, that won't sound good with this. I won't do that. It just kind of like this whole thing just kind of happened with very little effort on my part, other than putting in the time to write the songs. Everything just happened, which makes it's a really good sign, as I'm sure you know,
sure.
when it just kind of flows and everything just kind of comes together with, minimal effort.
Right. Well, let me go back a step, and I don't want to get all into the whole disillusion of the last lineup to this one. Right. Other than had you decided that Metal Church was over, and if that is indeed the case, what changed your mind?
Well, I did. We got back from our Australia run. Things fell apart. Things got ugly. Label wasn't interested anymore, and it just got ugly. So I shut everything down. Okay. I just and I didn't announce it because the internet, it just goes all over the place like that. So I shut it down. I was done. I moved on to just doing my Hall of Flame, which is my rock and roll band Hall of Flame album, and then my prog band Presto Ballet. And then working with other artists like Todd Michael Hall, and his new album is done, by the way, as well. Excellent. And so I just was off doing my thing. It's like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. It was ugly. Got no label. Okay. And so after a couple of years, all of a sudden I get these MP3s from the label, and it's 2 Metal Church songs, and Start the Fire and In Mourning. And I play to Start the Fire, and I'm like, is this some unreleased David Wayne version that I've never heard?
Okay.
I didn't know I was like, wow, what is this? And then In Mourning, so he did a David Wayne and Mike Howe song. And In Mourning sounded, wow, that sounds great too. Okay, wow. All right, well, if I ever decided to put the band back together, he'd be a great singer. I didn't know who it was, but it turns out he was being coerced, so to speak, from a mutual friend, Todd Latore from Queensryche.
Okay.
And said, dude, you should do this. I had no intention of doing it, so I didn't even know it was happening. So he pushed him to do it. He finally did it. And I heard that. And then I was like, wow, well, that'd be really cool. Then, so I called the label, like, Joe, who is this? Told me it was this guy named Brian Allen. And he's like, Vicious Rumors. Like, oh, okay, well, I've heard of them. I don't know anything. Wow, he's pretty good. Then I think with a matter of a few weeks after that, because Rat Pack was working with Ellefson Soto, Dave had an extended interest, if I ever put the thing back together, that he'd be interested in playing bass. That got back to me, and that was like, wow. Now that would be really cool, because Dave and I have known each other forever, since the beginning of time. And I was like, well, that's incredible. And then And then soon after that, Jeff Plate said, well, if you put it back together, I'd love to come back. So I'm like, there it is. It's like, well, there's the lineup. Rick stayed around. Rick was certainly interested in keeping going or, getting back going again. And so, well, there you go. I didn't have to do anything. I wasn't even trying. Didn't have to run auditions. Didn't have to call around. I didn't even want to. I was done. I had it, So then I started writing some songs. And then we just basically started putting it together. And Jeff was involved at first, but the Sabotage reunion took off really good for him. So he couldn't stay involved. And I totally support that and all those guys. Finally. So, and then within a few days, I was in touch with Ken Mary. And Ken Mary and I have known each other since the beginning because we're both Seattle refugees.
Right.
I was working with Terry on the first Metal Church album. He was working with Terry on the first Fifth Angel album. And then we knew, and blah, 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 blah. So that just made perfect sense. So there it was. And then I was like, well, I can't really not say yes to this. So I get the message, so that's just how it happened. And everything has kind of happened simultaneously, the same way.
Sure.
So, it was just kind of natural. Again, the band I didn't resurrect the band. It resurrected itself.
Sure.
I didn't intend to, didn't even want to. I was done. But now we've got these guys working and we ended up with a record that people like. So it's
on.
Yeah.
Well, let me devil's advocate a little of that just for a second. Obviously, you've had, I'll say, issues with singers, and not you personally necessarily, but I mean, you have two that are out there that are disgruntled singers. You have two that have passed away.
Yep.
I imagine that coming back to Metal Church for you, and tell me if I'm wrong or tell me if I'm right and why, I imagine coming back to it, that is the mental struggle you have to put yourself through of is this guy going to work out or is it going to end horribly wrong?
Well, yeah. Well, you never really know. You got to trust your gut. And again, one of the processes, there was no auditions or anything like that. But when Brian first came in and was like, okay, this looks like we're going to do this, Brian came down and we worked in the studio together. And I was not consciously, but maybe a little bit more skeptical and a little more cautious watching, getting a vibe and paying attention to vibes. And it was just a whole different kind of vibe. So after a few days, I was just complete comfort. But yeah, you're right. And I think it's kind of unspoken and not even conscious after that kind of trouble. I mean, any band that's been around as long as we have, you have disgruntled former employees, and it just does. And with the age of the internet and the age of social media, I mean, you can't change what people think, and you can't stop people from saying what they're going to say.
Sure.
So fine. Okay, great. So there you go. So I will remain, as positive as possible with everything. And, but yeah, you have to be a little bit careful. Well, I think it's just natural. You just, over the years, you reach our age, you just learn, whether it's in a band or a work or wherever, relationships, you start noticing signs of things that could be problematic down the road. So,
yeah. And after this many years and, with if people like to compare bands to divorces, you're on your fourth divorce, so to speak.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's going to make you a lot more nervous about going in and saying, well, this might be the right bride for me.
Right, yeah, right, exactly. And it is because a band is a relationship, without question, and it's it's a 5-way or 4-way relationship. So I mean, it's not easy, but when you work with people that are on the same page, it's considerably much easier. Sure. People especially understand the new business, the way the music business is now, and and just learning to work with people. Some people can't, some people can, and I think so far, I've been very, very fortunate. With this lineup so far, and we're just excited to go out and do it because none of us really thought we'd be doing this again.
Right.
So it's more like being appreciative and grateful of the the fact that we still get to do this as old guys, or I say veterans, we get to do it. So that in itself is the excitement part. So
right on. Look at your screen right now. If you're tired of the hide and seek games with big tech, where links disappear and episodes get throttled, I've got the fix. I'm Chris Aiken, And it's time for me to show you how to take back your access to the Classic Metal Show, the Seth Williams Show, and Chris Aiken Presents. Pick up your phone, go to the App Store or Google Play, and download the Locals app. It is 100% free. Once you're in, just search for the CMS Network. You're going to see everything. Every interview, every unfiltered rant, every deep dive music discussion, every uncensored news article we put up, all in one centralized, uncensored hub. No more chasing links across 5 different socials. This is our home. But if you really want the keys to the kingdom, look for that VIP upgrade. For just $4.99 a month, you're cutting out the commercials, getting the advanced drops before anyone else, and accessing bonus episodes that are way too heavy, dirty, or we just don't want to share with the free public. For the price of a cheap beer, you're supporting independent, unapologetic media. Download the Locals app today. Get some CMS wherever you are. And if you're a real one, join the VIP squad at classicmetalshow.locals.com. The Classic Metal Show and the CMS Network. It's uncensored. It's unapologetic. We will see you there. Well, Kurdt, obviously, let's talk about the record itself. Dead to Rights, fantastic. If you're a fan of Metal Church in any era, I think you'll love this. I just really do. It's a surprisingly old school Metal Church record. And I say surprisingly, again, it's probably because I read the press instead of just listening to it. But seeing Zeus's name in there, first off, when you see Zeus is mixing and mastering something, I'm expecting Slipknot sound. I'm not expecting Metal Church sound. He's a modern metal producer. What was it about him, and what kind of guidance did you have to give him to kind of stay away from that and keep it old school?
Well, he definitely did. I mean, it was time, I think. Zeus brought definitely, like you said, the modern edge to it. I think because I recorded it and produced it, I gave him, what I gave him sounded like Metal Church. But then he did his magic to it, which is definitely give it that modern, just in your face kind of vibe. And I think that's exactly what we needed. And when I do stuff, I'm still a vinyl guy. I'm still an analog guy. So I tend to mix and master a little bit differently. But he gave us the edge and the impact that was really that we needed. I mean, to be current. And but taking the old school sound and updating it, and he did a perfect job of updating it. So
right on.
And he was also a fan of the band too, growing up, so he knew. So
so he knew what not to do, more or less.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
right on. Now, I got to ask, Kurdt, you mentioned it. I was going to get there. You produced this yourself. And obviously, especially anybody that knows the Presto Ballet stuff, you're way more than accomplished and able to do your own production work. That being said, it's one thing to produce a band that you've built versus producing a band with literally legendary players like Ellefson and Ken Mary. You know, these guys, I have to imagine it's hard to tell either one of those guys, that's not right. Do it again or do it differently.
Never did. Never had to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because that was one of the things when I looked at, at the pedigree of everybody that we're working with now. It was okay. I wrote all the songs, which I did. And then, but when it came time to record, I made very sure, like, Ken, play it your way. You do you on this. Put your stamp on this. Dave, you put your stamp on this. Rick, who always does put his stamp on it because he's the lead guitar player. I'm a rhythm guitar player. Do you. Brian, this is how the song goes, but sing it like you want to. Let's drive. So it's not just a solo album with other players.
Sure.
It was definitely something, with people like, Ken Mary and Dave Ellefson, you trust their instincts too. That's how you hear it. There's no right or wrong.
Right.
It's all new stuff. We haven't decided now, after the record's out, playing it differently, that would be wrong. Up until that point, there's no right or wrong. It's just, hey, play it the way you want to play it. And I think that's really important. And again, giving them all the props and respect because of their, their history and their capabilities. It's like, it couldn't have been better.
Sure. Now, who wrote lyrics? Was it
I
Brian?
did.
Was it you? It was all you? All right, then I'm just going to ask this the only way I know how, which is straightforward. Why are you so much more pissed off on this record than the last two or three? Because this is one aggressive, angry record, man.
Yeah, well, the last record, I didn't write the lyrics. So,
Okay.
but on this record, it's probably just more of a, again, not to get political, but with everything that's going on right now, there's all kinds of great fodder for songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's all kinds of great phrases like, FAFO and all that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I just took, what was going on. And I think that's important. Again, without getting too direct about what everything song is about, because I
Sure.
like to leave a little bit of mystery and let some interpretation happen. But it's more about just kind of what's going on and kind of pushing that through because it's a moment in time. It's a little time capsule, and yeah. So you see a lot of stuff, and you write about it. And it's
Sure.
with the craziness going on, it's very metal. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Is it weird for you as somebody that's been doing this for a long time to see people's, let me explain this the right way. In the old days, you could write a song that might have been about a political subject, but we weren't so polarized into politics that it didn't brand you as a musician. Where
Right.
now, you can't do a song without people's first looking. Is he right wing? Is he left wing? Everybody's looking for that. Is it more difficult to write a song like FAFO now when people might pop you into a
A
right
certain
leaning
group.
thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. But at the same time, it's like, well, that's kind of half the fun. Let the people interpret it a little bit. I
Right.
mean, fuck around and find out. That's a cool metal phrase as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it kind of writes itself. So yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, I'm conscious of it, but I don't like to censor myself too much.
Sure.
And it's not a political record. It's a heavy metal record. It's
Exactly.
supposed to be escape. It's supposed to be fun. You know, I don't
Right
care
on.
what side of the fence you're on. It's none of my business.
Yeah.
And I also don't want to take the position of one thing I can't stand is, celebrities, especially just because they're famous and rich, want to tell us how to think.
I
So
agree.
I'm not going to do that. I don't care
Right.
what side of it is. Just do your job and entertain. You know,
Right.
but that's
I
all I want to do.
I always say it on my show when people start, well, so and so said this or that. I'm like, so and so would be a plumber or a carpenter if they hadn't found this ability to play guitar,
Right.
or to sing or to whatever. That's the only difference between the regular person and the person we know is that they found their ability, and that
Sometimes,
doesn't give them
sometimes, not always. Yeah.
right on. Well, Kurdt, obviously, man, anytime you put out a record, and especially I'm imagining with this new lineup, you're excited to get it out there.
Yeah.
I know previously you've had back problems and stuff. So considering that, what kind of planning as well as what plans do you already have for Metal Church Live?
Well, the 2 years off since our last shows, I've been learning a lot about physical therapy, about spinal stenosis, and so much. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir in a lot of cases because so many people have back issues now, and it's because we sit in front of computers all day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here. If I'm doing emails, then I'm in the studio, sitting in front of a computer.
Sure.
And then there was some back injury stuff, so it all just kind of came together. But I've been doing a lot of physical therapy and getting a lot better. So I'll never be 100% again, but I'm certainly a lot better than I was 2 years ago. So yeah, I got to be careful. Yeah, okay, my back issues, but I'm no kid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and I think that goes across the board with everybody. We're all we're all realizing our mortality, and we all know that in order to continue to do this, and travel in itself and touring just by the nature of it is hard on people, especially as you get older. So you have to take care of yourself, or you're going to end up like a lot of people that didn't take care of themselves. They
Sure.
get to our age, and they're not with us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't live like you did when you were 20 in your 60s. You just can't.
Right.
And
No, you're right.
So it's a whole different thing. I had made jokes about getting on the bus, and instead of, getting beers and all that kind of stuff, we're, talking about ailments and do you have any Advil left? Things like that. So it's a whole different vibe. But
Sure.
Your daily metal fix is on Rumble. Watch the Classic Metal Show episodes free or go commercial-free with a premium subscription. Find your Classic Metal Show now at rumble.com/c/CMS, rumble.com/c/CMS.
Well, and the bus, I bring this up from time to time to people like yourself. The bus itself is a very misleading comfort because those bunks are not comfortable, and especially for somebody with back issues,
or
that
tall.
is like sleeping on wood. It's just
So sometimes you have to make adjustments. You'll bring extra mattresses, things, and or sometimes you really have to do. Buses, depending upon how good it is, sometimes you get good ones, and sometimes you get crap ones. But I mean, it's like and if you're even just a little bit taller than I am, you don't have enough room to stretch out. So it can be. I mean, it's really the best way to do it, and the only way you really can.
Sure.
So it's that. But then when you get hotels, there's a way to do it. But if you're taking care of yourself and you're healthy and you continue to eat right and exercise, even when you're out doing it, you can survive it. But the buses are depending upon what configuration you have, they can be great or they can be painful.
Right on. Definitely. So Kurdt, what does it look like as far as touring? Are you going to go do the festival circuit so that you can reach the most people at once, or
we're doing a week up in the Northeast the end of July, right before we go to Europe to do festivals.
Okay.
And we're going to do some festivals, and then we got a few shows with Testament and Black Label Society and Armored Saint.
Oh wow.
So,
great.
we got some great shows coming up, and then in September, I can't remember the dates, but we're fortunate enough to be doing Louder Than Live.
Okay.
We get to share the stage with Maiden and Alice Cooper and Megadeth and stuff like that. So that's going to be great. And then plus another couple of shows in the area around that. So and then we got other stuff that's in the works right now that's not confirmed. So
will you have to keep David Ellefson in his dressing room away from the Megadeth people?
That's going to be really interesting. But I mean, Dave's such a good guy. I don't think he would care. And I think he's just happy to be playing. And between him and Dave Mustaine, Dave Mustaine's always been great to me. So
sure.
What's going on between him and that's between them. But I don't think there's going to be. I can't imagine there'd be any issues.
No.
I mean, we're all grown-ups.
I was gonna say if everybody was 25, maybe, but at this age, it's just like
fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's like, just go do your thing.
Hey man, good luck. Best of luck to you. Yeah,
exactly. Well, Kurdt, man, last question before we wrap this up. Obviously, man, at this point, we're looking at 40 years, which is very hard to believe for Metal Church.
You're telling me, yeah.
But when you look back, all the way back, what was your intention for Metal Church, and when did it shift from being whatever that intention was to being my lifelong career? Because I know it wasn't at the beginning.
Well, nobody is, because you don't know if that. I come from the generation where it was just the tail end of if you're over 30, you're done. Because that's the way record labels, major labels did it. Okay, well, this year, what are the kids into? And you could see what happened to the 80s hair metal when grunge happened. They went, okay, he lives, he dies. So you never thought about it. You hoped that you could sell enough records, to make enough money to live for a while and figure out or invest in something else. So when you got older, you had a different way to make a living. Always knew I'd be playing music at some capacity. But, things changed as time went on, and it just kept going, where bands of our era and, musicians my age and stuff, just all of a sudden we're afforded the ability to keep going in whatever capacity. So
there wasn't a point like a big show or something where you're like, this is my gig.
No, we had some great gigs and all that kind of stuff, and it was great, but I had no idea that there was any longevity to it. Nobody did.
Right.
Because there really wasn't. Unless you were some of the, the giant classic rock stars, for this whole genre, it was definitely very niche at the time. I had no idea that metal would remain a thing for 45 years, So.
Right on. Well, Kurdt, obviously, man, this record is fantastic. It is New Metal Church. Dead to Rights is the record. April 10th is the date. You guys should be pre-ordering it now. Kurdt, on this show, we tell everybody if they want to stream something, okay, go ahead, but don't make it the only way you listen to it. Stream it to learn it and then buy it. where should we send them to buy it or a hat or a shirt or something to help support the band?
Well, definitely go to Rat Pack Records there, but you can buy it on Amazon and any of the online stores. I'm sure it'll be available. Yeah,
Okay.
in vinyl too. Yeah, but if you go to Rat Pack, you can get all kinds of different bundles and all kinds of fun stuff. And yeah, they're great with that.
Excellent. Well, one more time, it is Metal Church Dead to Rights, April the 10th. And Kurdt, this has been fun. Thanks for joining me on Kurdt Vanderhoof Presents.
Thank you very much. Great to chat with you again.
Headbangers, show your allegiance to the Classic Metal Show. Score the latest killer gear and apparel. Find your next metal shirt now at https://classicmetalshow.creator-spring.com. So classicmetalshow.creator-spring.com, that dash being like a minus. Shop and support the show now.